Recording. And again, welcome everyone. I'm Daylene Meisky. If I haven't met you yet, welcome. I'm the Associate Vice President for Institutional Research, Planning Effectiveness, and Student Experience Redesign. And I want to welcome everyone here to the Academic Program Design, Planning and Review and Training. And just want to welcome you if you've never done program review before. We will be available to you to help walk you through it if you have any questions as you're starting to go through the process. Even if you're a seasoned veteran doing program review and you have questions, we're very mindful that folks go in once a year to touch the program review module. So it's not always easy to recall the little details and things that you need to do. So please, at any point you get stuck and you need help, I'm available to help you with the program review module itself. And then for budget, you'll be able to talk with Jason. So I'm going to go ahead and share a screen and then we'll get started with that. And the way this is going to work today is we will have a brief overview from myself. And if Erica's here, I didn't see Erica pop in, but if Erica Torgerson joins the call, Erica is the faculty lead for program review. She's brand new in that role for us, so we're excited to have her on board to help go over a brief overview of the integrated planning at COC and then kind of what to expect when you go into the module. And then Jason will give us an overview of the budget, and then we're going to open up some breakout rooms to really dive into some questions. And when you go into those breakout rooms for budget, Jason can pull up budget and go through the module and demonstrate it for you. And then I can do the same inside of the program review module. And I will note, we did invite some additional folks to join us as part of this process who are from the administrative program review side, so the non-instructional program review. So please, you're welcome today. You're welcome to come into a breakout room and ask some questions. We're going to be available to help answer anything that you have. So that's kind of our plan for today. And then we'll repeat today's session on Friday if you want to come back for any portion, or if you want to jump in towards the end of the training that we're doing on Friday in the afternoon. If you just want to come in to ask questions in a breakout room, you don't have to sit through the first portion of this. You can just pop over and ask questions towards the latter half of that training on Friday. So I'm going to start with this. This is how I view program review at the college and the process. It's really, I think, a roadmap and a rear view mirror. And so the way I view it as a roadmap is it helps you to plan out where your program is headed. And then we have the reflection to know, how you progressed on your objectives or your plans that you put inside of the program review module. I also want to note that this is required as part of accreditation. And those of you who have heard me do this presentation before, I never lead with that. I mean, it's an important thing to do, but or it's important because it's required, but it's also just good planning and a good process for us to be involved in, being good stewards of our programs and the funding and the resources that we have. This process is really important, and it's also important for the integrated planning that we do across the district to ensure that we're serving the students and the community to the best of our ability. So just a reminder, it is part of accreditation, and they do look to see the integration of student learning outcomes, also budget to our overall planning and resource allocation aligned with your objectives. So again, reminder that when you're doing planning here at the college, one of the best places to start to know how everything is organized, how decisions are made. I always encourage people to start with the decision-making guide. You can access that decision-making guide off of our planning website, which is canyons.edu/planning. And it provides really a good overview of how we approach decision-making at the college, an overview of our planning, our strategic goals, also the governance relationships, including collegial consultation and our operational teams, and much, much more. But it's really a good place to start if you want to get a good sense of how decisions are made here at the college and the processes. And this is also available on that site as well, which is our integrated planning model. And so just a quick overview of this. It starts with the college's mission. You will see at the very top, however, we do have the State Chancellor's Office Vision for Success. Currently, that's being discussed. It's the vision for 2030. But this, we always look to see what the state is directing us to do or requiring us to do, and that helps to frame some of the planning that we do here at the college. The college's mission drives our planning, and really it paves the way for our strategic plan, which our strategic plan was recently updated. So we have our new 2023 through 2026 plan available on that website. And the three major goals to remember are access, engagement, and success. Within those, there are specific goals, but why is that important for you? Well, in planning and your objectives, you're asked to identify which of the strategic goals your objective aligns with. And that helps to inform the strategic plan, and it's a reflection of how we're doing in alignment with that strategic plan and supporting the institution's three major goals. And then we also have our college committees and divisions and other key planning groups that are responsible, as we mentioned, for incorporating these goals and objectives into the planning efforts. Also, we have another major planning document at the college, which is the Educational and Facilities Master Plan. I know many of you on this call participated in the most recent update for that Educational and Facilities Master Plan, which I believe is in the final stages of doing the 508 compliance. Should be available, but that is also an integral part of our planning processes here at the college. And then, of course, we use ongoing analysis and assessment to make improvements, and that's facilitated by the dialogue, the use of data, and the connections between these plans. So again, this comprehensive model is easily accessible on that planning website, so I encourage you to take a look at that, again, as a reference for how everything is integrated here at the college. And this is just what that page looks like. I wanted to give you a visual of this to let you know that these are the things I was just talking about. That planning model chart is available on there. You can also access the academic and administrative program reviews from prior years from that site. It does require your COC username and password. It lives on the intranet, but it is available to you there if you want to take a look at prior years. We have a link to budget development, our fact book. And then at the bottom, you're going to see another little drop down that has program planning and review, and it has some resources there for you. So you'll find the program review handbook from last year. I'm sure there's another one we'll be uploading soon from Jason. But we also have our training that we'll upload right now. The training that's there is from last year. Once today's is over and we're able to upload it, we'll replace that with the training from today, the recording. But anyway, that's just one place that you can go to access these planning documents and resources to support you as you do program review this year. And then with program review, just a reminder, this is a 3-year cycle. We are currently in year 3. So what that means is year 1 is a full year review where you touch every part of the program review. But in years 2 and 3, those are update years. And the major areas within the update years are updating the objectives or adding new objectives to your program review. And then also the big one, budget allocation request, which Jason will go over shortly. With our program review process, we do encourage you to take a very collaborative approach to this. We encourage, across the department, including for those of you on the academic side, if you have classified professionals that are part of the department, encouraging you to involve them in that process, lab technicians, for example, as part of the program review discussions. And if you also work very closely with another department, and I'm just going to pick on Lisa, for example. So Lisa, Enterprise Applications, works very closely, obviously, with technology. So she might be doing some collaboration and getting feedback from Jim Temple's area or even Shawwin's area as it relates to planning that she's doing within Enterprise Applications. So we encourage folks to do that. And then lastly on this slide, just a reminder, these objectives do align with the strategic plan and they should be informing budget needs. And it's very clear when I show you the program review module how those connections are made. Before I do open up a live demo just very quickly, I want to give you some reminders. If you look back at your email from September 22nd, I sent an email with some helpful reminders about the program review process and some links in there. So if you still have it, please refer to it if you want a refresher about just what the program review process is. And if you don't have it, please let me know and I'm happy to send it to you again. For accessing the program review module, it's canyons.edu/APR. Now, what's important about that is only the level 1 user. So if you're an academic department, that's typically the department chair, has access to edit. You should have received a read-only username and password from Jocelyn Harris. And that read-only username and password can be shared within your department for folks to be able to view the progress on your program review and to provide feedback. But again, we limit editing to only those who are in the level 1 user access. And then your username and your password to access it, if you're at level 1, is the same that you use to access your district email. And then lastly on here, we have some additional upcoming trainings. If you want to know more about the Tableau visualizations and the data that are available to you as part of this process, or just throughout the year, we have another training this Friday at 9 o'clock. It's 9 to 10:30 with the Institutional Research Office. And we encourage you to come. We are going to preview a number of our data visualizations, and then we give you an opportunity to ask us questions, and then we'll show you on screen. We'll dive in and take a look at the data to answer your question. So that's this Friday, and the training is on the Vision Resource Center. So if you want to sign up, please do so. If you forget to sign up and you decide to come that morning, just come on by. We're happy to have you. And then lastly, the repeat session of today's training is next Friday in the afternoon from 2 to 3:30 p.m. And again, if you want to just pop over on Friday, I would say probably around 2:45. If you want to come over just to have some additional questions answered, please stop by. We'd be happy to have you and answer any questions that you have. And with that, I'm going to also remind you of some changes that we have for year 3. In years 2 and 3, we typically don't make major changes to the program review module. There might be some minor text changes or some little enhancements, but that's what we try to limit on years 2 and 3, is just those minor updates. So there is a new print functionality for budget, specifically budget and equipment reallocation summary, as well as the Perkins request summary. That was an added feature this year. And then also for levels 2 and 3, so level 2 is the dean, and then level 3 is executive cabinet. They now have a comment box that they can enter comments when they're doing their ranking process for forced cost request. And those would be available to you, but again, those boxes don't appear until levels 2 and 3. And then for budget, the automated notification that started last year for any items that are marked as 999, which means not supported, or 777 funded by another source, an automated email goes out. So we got some feedback from some recipients last year, and we made some adjustments to the wording on that email. So again, thanks to user feedback, we were able to make some adjustments to that automated email message. And then lastly, the objectives. Again, this applies to levels 2 and 3, but just so you know, your objective that you enter related to a budget request will now carry forward to levels 2 and 3 so that they can clearly see what objective it aligns with. It was always there. We just didn't have it showing on screens, or excuse me, at levels 2 and 3 on the augmentation ranking screens. Data, reminder that we have a lot of data available, which again, we'll go over on Friday if you're able to join us, but canyons.edu/data will get you over to our data visualizations. So you can see right there at the top, there's a link there. And then with that, Jason, do I have a couple minutes or you want me to pause?
You do whatever you want to do, Daleen. It's your world. I'm just living in it.
Oh, never good. Let me see here. I'm just looking around. Regina, may I pick one of yours?
Of course, there's so many to choose from.
Which one would you like? Water? Does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Makes no difference.
Thank you. Thanks for being a good sport. So with program review, this is what it looks like. I just want to confirm, are you seeing the screen? Okay, you're seeing, looks like a program review module. Okay, thank you. So when you log in, just a little orientation, there's resources here on the left-hand side. There is a milestone chart. And in this milestone chart, it will tell you which level it's at. I'm going to pull it up. I want to show everyone because, and Jason will go over this with budget, but sometimes people forget to actually forward. They do the narrative part, but then the budget part doesn't get forwarded, and we need the budget to be forwarded before level 2 can see it. So this is whenever we get those calls saying, I know I submitted it, we always go to this milestone chart to see where it's sitting in the program review. So you can see right now, all of these at level 1 have a P and a B. So that B is still sitting, it's got the planning portion and the budget portion are still sitting at level 1. And then that will change as the module progresses through the process. Okay. And then you can also see who's sitting at level 1. You can see the names parenthetically there. All right. And then what you do after that is click next. And then you'll go in. I'm only going to focus on the narrative portion since Jason will do budget in a minute. But in the narrative portion, you have a general tab, which has like your department mission, how your department's mission aligns with the college's mission. It has program goals. And then it has a description of programs and program SLOs. But though the last two here, it says read only, that's because it's pulled directly from Illumin. So if there's anything that you see there that doesn't match what's in Illumin, please let us know. And then we will go in and work with Patrick to get that updated. But this doesn't have to be adjusted at level, in years 2 and 3, unless there's something that you feel you want to go in and update. It's optional in level, in the 3rd year. So your outcomes and achievement data, you have the data embedded directly here, but it's probably easier just to click the link. It will take you directly to it outside of the module so you can play around with the data. And then we also have at the bottom here some prompts for you regarding data trends. And then also how your department are using those data. See, let me just check a question in the chat. Okay. I'll get to that in just a minute. And then for those of you in a career education area, there's an addendum for career education that's required every other year. It's a federal requirement every other year. So we note at the top what years it needs to be updated. This is year 3. So this is a year that you will need to update that. And then there's a curriculum scheduling and enrollment management tab. And again, this one, only if there are major changes from year 1 will you need to update this. Staffing and facilities, we do provide you with your academic staffing data, but at this point right now, you all have gone through that process. We provided those data to Miriam and you've gone through that process, but you can still go in here and note the support, staffing, and faculty needs, changes that have occurred, as well as any facility needs that you have. The external factors, you do not need to do this this year. But in year 1, it's a required section. But of course, you can see a note there for your career education areas. You've already done that as part of the addendum. That can be copied over, or you can not do this section. Your objectives, when you update the objectives as completed, they will roll over the next year to this section that we're looking at on this screen. And that's so when you go into the next tab, you can just focus on your open objectives and focus on adding new objectives. And you just simply click the edit objectives here. Don't worry, I will not be editing, Regina. You go into edit.
Go
you can
for it,
see-
Daleen. You might do better than I do. Go for
Oh,
it.
they'll all be completed. You can see here, this year, Regina would go in, she would look at this objective, and she's going to mark it as in progress, completed, canceled, yet to be started, or on hold pending funding. And that's that. And by the way, it is okay. I've said this in a prior training. It's okay if something is changing your program and you need to cancel an objective, it's okay to do that. And then we have the ability here to add additional accomplishments. So Regina got an amazing statewide award. So she's going to go in here and add that as an accomplishment. She also, as part of her process, identified that she has an objective that's specifically coming out of her analysis with her SLO objectives. So she's going to now enter an objective there in that section. And then if you need to add objectives that don't necessarily tie to the SLO, you would go into here and hit add an objective in that section. One thing I'll note here too is you might see on all these screens, there is a level 1 user comments. So that's any other supporting information or clarifying information you just want to provide. You have the ability in each of those screens. I won't touch budget planning. I'll leave that for Jason. And then at the end, I mentioned at the beginning, we encourage collaboration. So we ask that you identify who participated in the program review process. And then lastly, you have the ability, if you have supporting files that you want to include as part of your program review, you can add those as additional files here. So with that, I thank you, Jason, for lending me a little more time. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jason so that he can walk through the budget. And then after that, we will see if there's any questions that we should answer here as a whole group. And then we'll open up breakout rooms for you to get additional questions answered.
All right, thanks, Daleen. All right, so I'm supposed to have a half an hour. I probably won't take half an hour, so this should work out perfectly, Daleen. So one thing I want to do before we get started into how you request budget inside a program review, and I usually do this, is kind of set the stage of what we're hearing, what next year is going to look like. I actually just got back from ACBO, which is the Association of what are we? Chief Business Officials. And one thing that came in that I learned at the conference is they told us what they're expecting COLA to be next year. They said they have 6 of the 8 measurements that they use to determine COLA at the federal level, and right now COLA is looking to be between 2 and 3% next year. So what does that mean for us? So those who have heard the budget presentation, have been to PAC B or anything like that, know that we are no longer using the emergency conditions allowance, which means we used to be using our higher FTES to calculate our revenue. We are now using our actual FTES, which is about, I think now somewhere between 18 and 20% lower than what we were pre-pandemic. When it all shakes out, next year we are expecting probably in revenue wise, whatever COLA is, whatever that increase is, minus 4%. So if COLA comes out at 3 minus 4 is -1, which means we're probably looking at less apportionment revenue next year than what we got this year. And I don't say that to scare everybody off and run and go find new jobs or anything like that. But I just want to preface that, because as we go into next year, if we don't have the revenue, the only thing that we can do is cut back on expenses. So we absolutely want to make sure we fund everything you guys need to run your programs. But during this year, take time, go through your budgets, and I'll show you how to do that. There's ways to reallocate existing resources. So if you need something and you have a budget somewhere that historically you haven't used, and hey, instead of asking for new money, you can reallocate some of your existing resources. You want to do that because we do want to make sure we fund everything that's needed in the programs. And as stuff comes in, we're going to have to look for creative ways to balance our budget and fund going forward. So I just wanted to spend that 2 minutes to give you that preface, not to completely scare you again, but just kind of give you, that is what we are living in right now and what the world looks like, apportionment wise going into next year. And I saw Charlene jump on. I don't know if you wanted to say something before I jump into the actual program review.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And yeah, hot off the press, we both just got back from the CBO conference. So a lot of good up-to-date information from the state chancellor's office and other groups. But the the good years are behind us. We've had, they said, 10 good years of budget. I wouldn't say a whole 10 years, but definitely the last few years have been extraordinary when it comes to state revenues. So getting an 8.22% COLA this year, and then having a good COLA last year and the year before, really has been kind of an unprecedented level of COLA. I've never seen that in the over 22 years I've been in my job. COLA's at that level. So with the COLA coming back to more of a normal level, 2-3%, what does that mean for us? Jason mentioned that, but for our expenses every year, I kind of estimate, before anything else is requested from program review, we have probably about $5 million in expenses, just fixed cost things that we have to cover. So stirs and PERS, your pension costs go up about $1.5 million each year. Steps and columns, usually around $1 million to $1.5 million. So right there, you have $3 million. We have facilities costs, utilities, insurance, other costs that are just standard costs. And then, let's say $1 million in what we call forced costs. So things that people put through the budget that they absolutely have to have, things for facilities, things for technology and other areas. So right off the bat, we're $5 million short starting into the budget in 24-25. And the challenge with 24-25, and Jason probably will get into this, is that we came off the emergency condition allowance this year. So that means we have 3 years of average FTES, 2 years of ECA, 1 year of our own FTES. And I don't know if anyone knows or wants to say where we are with FTES, but we're still about 20% below where we were pre-pandemic. And that's a pretty big decline in FTES. So as we average those over the next few years, when we get into 24-25, and Jason, I'm stealing your thunder here, but so what happens in 24-25 with those FTES? We have 2 years of our actuals and 1 year of the higher ECA, and that drops our SCFF revenue down. And that's why Jason is saying our COLA, whatever comes through in COLA, we aren't actually going to benefit from it because our SCFF what is it? Now I can't even think what it's called. Student-centered funding formula, David, for your benefit. Yeah, SCFF is student-centered funding formula. It came into the system in 2018-19. What else? What other acronyms can I explain? Thank you, Daleen. Full-time equivalent students. Thank you. Yeah, if we say anything acronym-wise or otherwise, please let us know. We'll clarify that. So we're starting $5 million basically negative with next year's budget. So when you're doing your budget requests, we absolutely want to help everyone get what they need. We'll find ways to do it. There are certain other funding sources. So as Jason said, don't hesitate to ask. But if you can find it in your own budget and move stuff around first, do that, number one. Jason, I'll let you continue that discussion.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen, and then we will jump into program review. So Daleen showed this. Here we have our program review. The one thing that I'm going to do here is I want to show you this link right here. Go over here to Program Review Handbook. So if it's your first time in Program Review, I'm going to go through it, quickly. I'm not going to spend step by step each page, but this Program Review Handbook, if you click on it, I'm going to share the link right here, will bring up the handbook. And what this is, it is a screenshot step by step of how to make requests inside of Program Review. So I'm going to go through this and we'll kind of walk through how to do that and the steps you're going to take inside the budget. And then if you have questions, feel free to stop me, or you can write them down. I'll try and get through this in maybe 10-15 minutes, and then we'll go into the breakout room and we can have specific questions where I can open up, look at your program review, and go through all of this. All right, so the first thing we do is we go to our website. We're here. It shows your level 1, level 2, and level 3, and that will be all of your due dates We still have last year's date. We're gonna get this updated, probably in the next day or two. 99% of this is good to go. We just went live with program review today. So now that we do that, we're gonna take a few new screenshots and update this. But like I said, 99% of it is still good. So when you get in there, you're gonna first go to your level 1. So right there in activities, click your drop down, grab level 1, and what'll show up is then your program and department. You're gonna look and grab that. A lot of you will just have 1, maybe 2, some maybe 3 or 4. I have access to all of them, and that's so that if you ever have questions, you can call me and I can go in and look and see exactly what you're looking at. So when you drop down, go ahead and grab your department. When it does, and here I'm just going to grab linguistics. That's our fake department that we use to do this training. You're going to come in here and then you're going to click on your edit in the program view. And you saw this. This is exactly where Daleen was, where she went all of the different tabs and what you're supposed to do. What we focus on is your budget planning here. So when you go into the budget planning, which is the tab that Daleen skipped, you're going to go click on there and then click there for your budget planning. And again, you're going to come here. If you want to view or print it, you can always click that view or print button, and that'll give you a full printout of what is in your program review. So once you get there, let's see, this shows everything in your program review. You can print it out. So your budget planning, go down there like we talked about. So around here, that review, revise, and rank budget, that's where you're going to go to start inputting any requests and looking at your numbers. When you click there, you're going to come to this page. Here, this first top one is budget reallocation summary. This is what I was just talking about. This is if you have money in a certain object code, say you have $5,000 of short-term employees that is sitting in your budget, but you don't have any short-term employees, you never use it, and you want to move it because you need some supplies, you can just reallocate that funding. That's your money, it rolled over. You can move it into supplies, that way you don't have to ask for more funding. So when you click on that, you're going to go over here, and then this will show you the different activities that you can do. This one just has the 1. So when you click on there, you'll see your budget. So this one is a very small budget. Have college assistants here. We don't have any money because this is just a shell. But when you're in here, it'll show you your actuals for previous years. It'll show you what's allocated in your budget for this year. And then over here, you can move money around. So if you wanted to move it from one place to another, the place where you're moving it from, just put a negative and put a positive where you want to move it to. You want to make sure that your changes there will always equal 0. You cannot give yourself new budget in this page. You can't just subtract $100 and add $500 somewhere. It'll error out. The only way that you can move past this is if it equals 0. So a lot of you, if you have a large budget, you can move $1,000 here and there and move that stuff around to try and fund what you need yourself. It's the easiest way to do things. You don't have to ask for it. It's your money. You can move it around. If you have different departments, you can actually take it from one of your department and give it to another by using that give money to another department or receive money from another department. Again, just make sure you use your correct positive and negatives. If you have questions, reach out to me. I can walk you through to make sure that all of that is done correctly. Once you're done with that, you can save it. You'll always see these little lifesavers. If you go back right here is this lifesaver. Always click on that if you have questions. Like you say here, this is your reallocation hints. You can cut your budget. I've been doing this for a long time. I always let people know, hey, if you just say, I have way too much money in my program, there's no way I can spend this all, I want to give it back to help everybody else out, you can just cut your budget. That's the only way you can put it in where it would be a negative. Or you can give money to another department, or you're receiving money from another department. Once you do all that, again, just look at here, look at your object codes. This is going to tell you all the information you need to know. And then here, just make sure it always comes down to a 0, because you need to have exactly in and out the same amount. Once you do that, if you need to add a line, so say you want to have this college assistant, you need a short-term employee, you can click add a budget line. And what that'll do is it'll pull down your object code, grab it here, you can add that into your line, it'll come in at a 0, and then you can move money to that. So here in this example, there's advertising. So we can take away from one and move it to another if you're going to have a new object code. Let's see there. And then once you're done with that, you just review and approve it. I've reallocated the budget I want to go, and then you save and exit, and then you're on your way. And then that'll take you back out to the beginning. So that's your reallocation piece. The next piece is your budget equipment request summary. Now, there's 2 types of requests that we have in program review. One is what we call a forced cost. Your forced cost is your must-haves, I absolutely need this or I cannot run this program. Your budget equipment request summary here, that is what we call augmentations or just simple requests. Those are the like to haves. I don't absolutely need those, but I would like to have it because I think it'll make our program better. And we kind of differentiate that because our forced costs, the ones we absolutely have to fund, is where our first funding that we have available goes to that. If there's additional funding left over, we go to those augmentations. Or sometimes there's alternative funding outside of the general fund. It could be a grant or a categorical fund that can fund specific type of items, such as instructional equipment, instructional supplies. Every once in a while, we get additional funding that we can use for that. And what we do is we go to those augmentations and we say, hey, let's look at the like to haves, what people would want, and then we'll use that funding and we'll fund them accordingly. So the first thing here, this budget equipment request summary, this is your not forced costs. These are your augmentations. So when you, wrong button. So when you click on that, it's going to take you to something that the screen looks like this. You just click on add new request. Your new request is going to come up here. The first thing you want to do is title your request. You want to make sure we know what you're going to do. So here you can also tie it to one of your program objectives like Daleen was talking about. You're going to have all your program objectives. Every request should tie back to what your objective, one of your objectives. Over here is the rank type. There's two types. There's all or separate. This came in a few years ago. What this means is you need to make a request by object code or by expense type. But sometimes you need multiple expense types to get exactly what you need. The example I use is laptop carts. You may need laptop carts for your program. But to get a laptop cart, you need the cart itself, you need laptops, and you need a college assistant or short-term employee to help you bring them in, bring them out, and keep track of all of those things. But if you put them in separately and say, we just fund the cart, but no laptops and nobody to help you with it, it doesn't make sense to you to have that. That money does you no good. You can't spend it. If we let you buy a lot of laptops, but no cart to put them in and nobody to help you with, that's not going to help. So what you can do is if there are different object codes or different type of expenses, but all go together in a group, you can select all, which means you want all of these as one. We either need to fund them all or none. If they're separate, if you're like, hey, I need all of these, but there's my priority 1, 2, 3, I can have them different, then you would select separate. And then again, if you click on your little lifesaver, that'll tell you what you're doing there. So when you go in, you're going to have all of your object codes here. This is an alphabetical order because I'm the only one on campus that knows things by the numbers. So other people like words, apparently. So they're all alphabetical. So look for, instructional supplies will be under I, new equipment, those type of things. So we make it easier to find that way. You're going to grab that. Your recurrence, this is going to be a one-time cost or an ongoing cost. Is this something that you're going to need every year in your program? Is this a supply budget of supplies you need to replenish every year, so you need that every year? Or is this a piece of equipment you just need to buy this one time and then you're going to be good for 5 or 6 years? You don't need that money ongoing. So select if this cost is going to be a one-time cost or if it's going to be an ongoing cost. Then you're going to put in how much you need and then a description and why it's needed. I encourage you to put a detailed description in here. If you need something, tell us why. It's not just, hey, I like it or it's good. If there is a specific reason, put that in there. If you're requesting short-term employees or college assistants, don't just put a number and say, I need $5,000 worth. Say, hey, I have 2 sections, so I'm going to need 10 hours a week at $18 an hour times 17 weeks times 2 semesters. Do the math out, and that'll help us back it back into exact what it is. So you're going to want to put your description in there so that as this moves forward to level 2 and level 3, your dean, your director, and then your VP will know exactly what you're asking for. This is you have the opportunity to upload documents. If you have a spreadsheet with calculations to support your request, you can go ahead and drop it in there. If you have a piece of equipment and you went and got a quote so you know how much that equipment costs and you did a screenshot, you can put it in there. Anything, you can put in to support your request. It allows you to upload documents. There's your file size, file type. Then you're going to choose your location code. You should only have one drop down. So you're just going to make sure you click that. 2,000 is instruction, 9,200 is your Canyon Country, 3,000 student services, different things like that. Usually you're only going to have one location code and one activity code to choose from. That last section is potential funding. If what you're requesting could be potentially funded somewhere else, such as instructional block grant, lottery, Perkins, strong workforce, you can see them there. You can put that in there. Lottery will fund instructional supplies. Instructional block grant will fund instructional equipment. If you have talked with Harriet or Jasmine or someone, and they have other funding such as Perkins or the C funding, and you know that what you have could potentially be funded by that, and you've had that conversation with them, you can choose those other potential funding sources. We'll go through, and if there's, like I said at the beginning, this is an augmentation, it's not a must-have, but we'll look at everything that has potential funding and see if we can match that up and fund it anyway, even if it's not a forced cost. Once you put in your request, go ahead and hit save. And then what it does, you'll come here, and after you put in a couple, you'll have something like this. You can always add more requests here. But as you can see here, this is academic team travel. This is by itself. This is an example of a separate request. Here is one that's an example of one that's together. So this is an all. Both of these requests go together. So while they're different object codes, it's still $550 a request for both of those things. You can always add more if you need until you're all completely done. And then when you're done, you're going to go press, oh, sorry, let me go back. You're going to hit your return to planning and budget planning menu. Once you get all of your wants in there, all of your augmentation requests, this bottom piece here, this budget equipment ranking request, will allow you to go in and rank those requests. So when you say, hey, I want, these are all my requests, you know, there could be 5, 10, however many there are, but then you want to rank them. You know, if we have funding, this is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So you're going to rank them in the order you feel you would want them to be funded. Because then what happens from there is they'll go up to level 2, and then level 2 will have, like, your dean will have all of the different disciplines in there, all those requests, and then your dean will rank everything again based on the entire school, and then they will go up to level 3, which is Omar, for the instruction piece, and he'll rank every single thing 1 to 18,000 or however many requests come in. He's got a nice ranking party he does every year. It's like 6 hours where he locks all the deans in a room and makes them rank every request that comes in. So once you're done with that, then we have our forced cost request summary. So again, the forced cost is, these are the must-haves. I have to have this or else I cannot run my program. So you're going to click on that, and again, same thing here, add new requests. You know, you're going to put in your description and put in your justification. Please be detailed in your justification. You have to tell us why this is a forced cost, why you absolutely have to have this, and why your program cannot run if you don't have this. If you are running, you know, a chemistry lab, you need microscopes. There's no point in running a chemistry lab if you don't have microscopes, right? That would be a forced cost. If you have health and safety issues inside a lab or inside your classroom, and hey, we are not allowed to run a class like this, run a lab without some piece of equipment or some health and safety issue being taken care of, you can do things. Those are the type of things that you absolutely have to have. If it's something you're contractually obligated to do, we have a long-term contract and it has a 10% increase in our fee every year. That's something we're contractually obligated. We have to do that. So put that justification in there and put a description of what you're requesting. The more information, the better. We have forced cost type here. I'm going to get into this. We have C, E, I, V, and X. And all of you who are newbies are like, what do those letters mean? Well, guess what? We have a little lifesaver here. It's going to tell you what they are. So your C is your critical. So you always have to label what type of forced cost it is. C is critical. This is for district-wide operations. It's there, but this is 99.9% of the time is really just for IT and facilities. The critical operations, that is district-wide. This is electricity. This is a server. This is it. If we don't have this, not only cannot run your class, but the campus is shutting down, which is why this is really left to IT and facilities. E is enrollment management. If it's what you're doing, if say you're expanding sections, you're adding sections or expanding your program because your the enrollment management plan requests you to do that in order to grow our FTES, choose enrollment management. You know, we're adding 3 sections, so we need 3 times the supplies. We're adding, you know, sections, so we need short-term employees to help with labs, those type of things. Anything that is marked E, we take all of those and we send them to the Enrollment Management Committee, and they get verified there that yes, this is part of the enrollment management plan. This is what we're trying to do. And yes, this is a forced cost. If you're like, hey, I just want to add sections because I like my program and I think if I build it, they will come. And we send it over to enrollment management and they'll say, hey, I'm sorry, this isn't part of our plan to do that. It will get kicked back and it'll probably get moved to an augmentation and not a forced cost. I is institutionalization. This is for if you have a program that was grant funded. Say we had a grant that funded your program for a couple of years and now that grant money is going away, but we want to keep your program. We're going to institutionalize that with our Fund 11 unrestricted money. So we're going to institutionalize that program because we no longer have funding through the grant. Program viability. This would be if your program is gone through program viability, say it's a new program and it's approved, then you need to request everything that's coming in for your program. If you've gone through program viability and you've requested, more funding or more sections or different things to make your program viable, that's what your program viability is. If it's there, this goes to the program viability committee. They will look at it and they will say, yes, this was a new program we approved. This looks like what we approved. Yes, we can go ahead and do this. Yes, these are forced costs. If you're just making up a program and start putting it in there, I try it every year, maybe I want to start my own program. I send program viability. They will say, no, this was not something we approved and it will get cut out. So all of those requests go to the program viability committee. And then X is your external. This is anything that is a legal mandate, contractual obligation, health and safety risk, anything like that. That's what you're going to put in there. This is something we're going to have to do. If there's a mandated equipment or anything like that, that's your X force cost. We also put one thing that comes in here is there's actually two. One is we've done any kind of minimum wage increases, and I think we're done with those. But if we're at a point where you're like, hey, I just need to increase, it may not be minimum wage, but we're not getting any lab assistance in here because we're not offering enough money. We need to want to increase. I'm working with HR to get that, that type of stuff will go in there. If the other thing that goes here is course coordinators, and I'm going to take a second here to talk about course coordinators. Those you need to put those in every year. They do not carry forward. I believe there's only 2 programs, which is math and English, that have ongoing budget for course coordinators, but still math and English put those in because what we do, put them in as a force cost X. We take out all course coordinators and we send them over to Omar and Paul in instruction, and then they will get back to you to let you know what course coordinators we're going to fund. They have a pocket of money over there that they will then dole out for all the course coordinators. So put it in as a force cost X. We already have funding for it and they will let everyone know. So that is the course coordinator piece. And when you do it, put in course coordinators. You don't have to put a long description in for that. We know what those are. In your description and justification, just put course coordinator. That way it's easy for us to pull them out and send them over. Once you do that, you're going to put in how much you need, your amount requested. You're going to choose your object code. Again, is this supplies, is it equipment? What is it going to be? I'm going to take a second here to stop and talk about 2 things. One is supplies versus equipment. I just want to touch on that briefly because people have those questions. A supply is something that is consumable, usually only lasts about a year or less. If it's something that's going to break, if it breaks, you're going to replace it. As opposed to repair it, that's your supply. Usually a dollar threshold is, $200, $250, something like that. Anything less than that is usually considered a supply. A whiteboard is a supply. You're not going to get out the duct tape and replace your whiteboard. We're going to spend $50, get your whiteboard. If it breaks, we're going to toss it out. It'll be done. We'll get another whiteboard. If it's a laptop, computers, monitors, those type of things, equipment, large pieces of equipment, that's what would be equipment. So you're going to follow those type of guidelines to distinguish between your supply and equipment. I have a question here about the fund. What's Fund 11 and other sources? David, I can go over that in the end after we get through that. Or if you want to jump in the budget break room, I can go through the different funding sources there for you. So that's supplies versus equipment. So if you're asking for something, there's your supply versus equipment. The one other thing, if you're asking for a piece of equipment, and it's replacing. So say you have microscopes. I'm just using microscopes today, and they're all old. They're 20 years old, and you need to replace your microscopes. It's a forced cost because you absolutely need them. One thing we're asking you to do is to put in your justification the asset tag of the equipment that it is taking over. And I'm going to show you right here where you can get that. So Daleen talked to you about the resources. If you click on the resources, you're going to have all these resources. Right here is an asset inventory list in Excel. If you click on that, it'll bring it up. It's a large Excel document. It takes a while to bring up, so I'm not going to do it now, but go ahead, open it up. You can go to your program, and it'll have every piece of equipment that is assigned to your program. So if you are replacing it, take that asset tag number. Let's see if I can get it up here pretty quick. Take that asset tag number and put it in your justification. I'm replacing microscope 123, 1234, 1235, anything like that. And then you can put it in there as your request. It's going to help it go through a lot easier because we can see, hey, that microscope was bought in 1972. You know, we're in 2023. That has used its, you know, it's all used up. We know that makes sense. We need to replace that. All right, let me skip back over to here. Okay, so you're going to grab your object code. You know, and same thing with the other one. Then you're going to pull your activity code, your location code. Again, is this one time or ongoing? We've gone over that already, and potential funding sources. Once you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and click save. And then you're going to fill this up with all your requests, continue to add new requests. And when you're done, you're going to return to the budget planning menu. One thing we have in here is Perkins request. I'll go through this really quick and then we'll get to the end and we'll get to our breakout rooms. Those Perkins forms, and then Daleen we had a talk just before this. Harriet's not here. She'll be here on Friday. So if you have Perkins requests, she'll be here to answer those questions. But it goes in here. You're going to fill out your Perkins form. I think she's sending these out via email as well. So you can do it inside a program review. You know, again, same thing. You're going to rank it, put your goals, your continuous improvement goals. You're going to activities that meet the requirements of the Perkins funding, with your core indicators. Go through all that. Just fill this out like you would your normal Perkins form, and it's going to put it in as a Perkins request, and we send those down to Harriet to fund that stuff through Perkins. You can always add a new request. So once you've reallocated your budget, you've put in all your forced costs. I need these things or else my program will not run. You put in your entire wish list. These are things I don't absolutely need, but would make my program better, and I really want it. And you've ranked all of that stuff. You go to return to your program planning review. And then this is what Daleen was saying. You're going to forward your program review and budget. And basically that'll move it from level 1 up to level 2. And then you are done with your piece of program review. It'll go up to level 2, and then you'll have those conversations back and forth with your dean or director. And that's it. If you have any questions, you can always contact me on the budget, or John Young. John Young that works up here in business services. He is an expert inside the program review system and can help you a lot with anything that you have there. So that is the abbreviated 15-20 minute version of how to make your budget requests. I'm going to hang out in the budget room for the next half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever you need. And if you have to go, or if we don't get to your question here, please reach out, call me, email me. I'm happy to jump on a Zoom. I can jump into your program review and I can see exactly what you're doing, so I can help you get through all of those things. So any questions?
Jason,
sorry.
Did you mention the town hall that we're doing on November 9th?
I have not mentioned the town hall that we're doing. So on November 9th, so just on last Friday, we did an overview from how to request stuff. We did a very abbreviated version of program review, all the way to how you order it, purchase it, pay for it, get it, the entire business services, how we can help you. That was with the department chair training. So some of you, I believe, were over there. And then on November 9th, we're having a town hall, which is essentially myself and April Marin will be in a room to we're going to be locked in there for 2 hours, and you can come in and ask us any question you'd like about business services. It could be all about program review, it could be all about purchasing, any about fiscal, about travel, about anything like that. So we're trying our best to make ourselves available to you so you can ask us any questions. So that is going to be November 9th. We will send an email about that and we'll start advertising that. We're working with the Academic Senate and David Andrus to get that out to all faculty and anyone else who wants to come hang out with us for a couple hours. But even on top of that, we're always available. Go ahead and shoot us an email and a phone call.
And that is 2:30 to 4:30, I believe, Jason, or 2:30 to 4 on that Thursday.
I believe
And
something like that.
In person, Canyons, I think it's Canyons Hall 201, and Zoom, I think also, right? We'll get
think-
the details out, but I think we're trying to make it available both ways.
I don't think it's Zoom. I think it's just in person.
Okay, well, we probably need to look at that, but the point of that is that there are budgets that were approved for this year. So folks have money this year that they need to work on, I guess to spend, I say work on, but you know, you need to find a way, figure out how to spend it. If you have questions about that, we're wanting to help you with that. And that might also help you with your budget for next year. So take advantage of that as well. This is complicated stuff. Don't hesitate to ask questions. We do this every day. And once a year, when you do it, we know it's a lot of acronyms, a lot of concepts, very complicated.
All right. So I think I'll throw it back over to Aileen, and then David, you had your question about funding. If you want to jump over, we can talk about that in the budget room. Or if you want to talk about it later, feel free to give me a call and I can brief you on all the different funding.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Charlene. We will now go into breakout rooms. I want to mention for those of you who have administrative program reviews, I am looking at some additional kind of open office hours where you can pop in and get additional support and help actually going through your module because it does look a little different than the module for the academic side. Very similar, but there are some differences. So you just don't have the data piece. That's one of the main differences, but I'll definitely get that out for those of you who are completing an administrative program review. That's the non-instructional one. But now what we'll do is we will open up the breakout rooms and you'll be able to freely go between breakout rooms to get questions answered or have something reviewed. And we'll have one for the program review narrative, which Lisa and I will be in that room. Then we'll have one for budget with Jason. And if Charlene's able to stick around with us, we'll have the two of them in that room. And then we'll have SLOs with Evise Wilson, Mary Powell, and Saab Matsumoto will be in that room. And what am I missing, Jocelyn? I just rattled them off the top of my head. Did I get them all? Yes, perfect. And then next week, a reminder, career education, both Gary Choir and Harriet Happel will be available next week in that room. For today, Gary will join Jason and Charlene in the budget room. So with that, we're going to say thank you. We'll stick around. We have until 5. Be happy to answer any questions. And so Jocelyn, you are going to launch we'll stop the recording actually.